Okay, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have an awesome update for you from the brand Seiko. A little bit about them. They were founded back in 1881. They're Japanese in origin and now have factories throughout Asia. They cover all market segments from entry level to high end. In terms of this particular type of watch, it's a pilot's watch. Some key common characteristics and design language to look for when you want a pilot's watch. You're really just going to kind of look for that balance of legibility and functionality. Now, this is from their Seiko 5 Sports line. This is the SRPH23, which is an international model, so you should be able to get this in a lot of different places. Although I will say that it isn't, at least here in the US, it isn't marketed as heavily as some of their mainstream releases, but I really dig this one. It's essentially an updated evolution of their popular mid-sized SNK Seiko 5 Fliegers of the past. And I really dig this variant. It actually came on a Seiko branded mesh, but I had to pair it with this beautiful Haveston strap here. It's the Invasion strap. You guys have seen it featured on my channel. You guys have seen Haveston goods featured on my channel, and of course Seiko goods. And for me, this was not really, I don't know, like maybe not worthy of another review, considering I just reviewed this watch in black, with, I should say, a black case, slightly different dial, but pretty much essentially the same thing. Sometimes these models, they get really sneaky, and I think that's what Seiko's really good at. They make you buy multiples, and you kind of want to wear them in different ways and make them a little bit different. So why not pair it to one of my favorite straps there? And I'm really excited to share this combo with you. This is less about the watch or the strap individually and more about kind of pairing those combinations together that really stand out, that you can have a lot of fun with. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. All right, guys, so just, you know, a little bit of background. I don't know if they still sell these. I hope they do. It's the Tool Watch Roll M12. Very nice. Reviewed it. Definitely check the reviews here. And then some cool playing cards. And this kind of just goes in with the whole theme of Haveston. Oh man, looks like one of the cards snuck out, so it's harder to open that there. But anyways, the really cool thing about Haveston is they're just not about, hey, having some singular products. They actually are a brand, and they have many products, and of course all of them go back to this kind of military inspired thing. But these are really cool playing cards, a lot of fun, a lot of great horological knowledge when it comes to the information that's on there. I really like that. That's something that I thought was awesome. It's almost like kind of having flashcards for those of you that are you know, maybe interested in watches, especially military watches. So I thought this was cool. I would probably, you know, probably wouldn't really suit the channel to do a full review on these playing cards, but definitely check them out. There's a lot of cool stuff. And then even the little kind of coaster slash work spot for your watch. And then of course a Douglas Field lighter here just for some background stuff, just because it's Japanese and it's cool. And it's kind of like this watch, Japanese and quite cool. So let's take a look at it. Beautiful Seiko. I love the layout, kind of matching. Again, a nice thing is a little bit of history. They give you that kind of course, the B-style dial when it was popularized, which I think is very cool and, you know, kind of different and educational, guys. So if you ever want to rise above just being an average bro when it comes to, you know, your watch knowledge, there are, you know, fun ways to kind of connect. But for me, what really connected was this pairing. Honestly, I bought this watch to pair with this strap, and I bought this strap to pair with this watch. I just knew it was going to look gorgeous. This is actually probably just a later iteration of one of the first Haveston straps that I reviewed way back when, and I always loved it. And, you know, when I saw this model, you know, after kind of getting tied up with some of their more mainstream releases within that kind of Flieger update, There was just a part of me that was like, man, I would just love to see these two put together. I think this is a great look. I think it's a real match made in heaven. So let's just talk about the watch if you haven't gotten the full review of the kind of other one that I did. So this is the SRPH23. And yeah, again, this kind of got kicked up, and because thanks to Top Gun Maverick, it kind of got me excited about aviation again. And you know, I was in air defense my whole time in the Marine Corps, so aviation is something that is near and dear to me. But you know, work often isn't fun, so it was nice to kind of add a little bit and inject some fun back into the idea of, you know, aircraft ID and everything like that, and just thinking about those instrument panels and gauges again. So the cool thing about this watch is it can be had for $350 list, and you can find it anywhere in between $200 and $300. It has a 39.4 millimeter diameter. It's 13 millimeters thick. So not super thick. Let me just make sure you can get a nice idea of the focus there. So not super thick. I know some of you are looking at this going, oh my gosh, that looks super thick. It's not. It really isn't. It wears beautifully. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's only 39 millimeters. So if this was like a 42, you'd probably be looking at it saying, oh, that's very svelte and thin. But because it is a little bit smaller, it does, you know, I think proportionally it has some curvature to it, which I don't mind. Now, in terms of the lug to lug, which is very important, it's 47.6 millimeters lug to lug, so that means it's going to fit on the wrist really well if you have a larger wrist. And if you have a smaller one, you don't have to worry too much because it does have turned down lugs right there, which are going to suit it really, really well, depending on what type of strap you put it on, whether it be a 2-piece or a 1-piece. At the end of the day, it's really your preference. There's tons of really cool tactical straps that are out there these days, so you can really pair this with something that I think thematically and functionally are going to really work for you. For me, thematically, my goodness, and then of course functionally, it's something that Haveston has really done well, and kind of just re-architecting you know, these nylon NATO style straps just to make them more wearable. So I can always appreciate that. Now, in terms of the crown, it's a push-pull crown, unsigned. The movement inside is behind the strap here. So as you can see, peeking out, nothing to write home about, but it is a nice in-house movement. The Seiko 4R36, because you do have the day-date complication there at 3 o'clock. The display case back is nicely etched with a couple of extra information there, you know, in terms of, you know, the facts and stats of the watch. It all works out. Now, in terms of this dial, it's all printed, and then it does have lume pips there every hour. It has a really cool black sunray dial, which I wasn't necessarily expecting, but as you can see, it actually is a sunray dial versus the black case model, which actually had more of just a glossy dial. Let me give this a quick wipe off camera here. A little warm in the studio today, guys, so it's going to be a little bit sweatier on the reflective portions of the watch, but my goodness, is that a handsome piece. I mean, the tones, the color palette, it all just comes together. I love the way that 3 o'clock date window just flows, especially when you make it to a 15. You almost don't even notice that it's there. And then you also do get, of course, the day of the week function nicely integrated as well. I really dig that they did black discs with the white font to really balance out the dial, so it's not standing out, jumping out, but it's there when you need to find it. It does also have 10 bar or 100 meters of water resistance, which is great. So in terms of any type of splashing, water sports, it's pretty much all good, ready for you. 20 millimeter lugs, which make it quite a strap monster. And then having drilled lugs, even better. Down to this strap here, if you guys want more information on it, I'll try to leave a link in the description. It's the Haveston A2 single pass enhanced invasion strap. Enhanced meaning that it's kind of the higher end version. You're going to get these reinforced holes here, and then you're going to be getting kind of the same kind of leatherish, very nice, even still functionality wise, floating keeper there. and then beautifully milled hardware. So just a little step up, a little bit nicer, still under 30 bucks at about 28.55. And they have all these deals where like the more you buy, cheaper it gets, so on and so forth. You guys can figure that out. But this is a really nice piece, and it's like not super expensive, which I can really appreciate that there's, you know, kind of that bang per buck quality. And again, it's from a brand that isn't all about just having a singular product. You know, they have a line of different products that, you know, interest me, especially with my military background. So with all that said, let's actually get this piece on the wrist and see how it wears. All right, guys, as you can see on my 7¼ to 7½ inch wrist, it just wears gorgeous. The color play, the color palette, everything just comes together. I love how versatile it is. This really dark green. You don't necessarily have to match anything too, but if you got, you know, kind of white shirt, khaki pants, or jeans, it's all gonna kind of come together. And that's one of the things I really like about these more sedate color palettes. When you get into some of the brighter stuff, then it gets into kind of a territory where you kind of, you itch to match things, but then you have to struggle with it being kind of overly matchy. I think you don't really get those same problems when it comes to very classic color combinations like this, especially with the darker, more subdued color palettes. It wears really, really nice there, just about perfectly, very dialed in, and the thickness is definitely not as noticeable as you might think. And you can see it does ride on the wrist really well. So those of you that might have been turned off by the thickness, look at that. Is it really that thick? Is it really that much to be upset about? And again, this is from a watch you can get for under $300 typically. So, you know, no reason to be upset about it. No reason to boycott or anything like that, especially considering the price point. I feel like this combination just feels really special, and it's a great look. I mean, it'd be my ultimate dream to be scrolling through Instagram and see some of you guys rocking this same combination and enjoying it, just because I just love the way it looks aesthetically. It's just very pleasing to me. I like that the theme-wise things tie together, quality-wise, value for money-wise. There's just so many things that kind of intersect when it comes to this combination for me, and it was a lot of fun to put it together and just kind of talk shop with you guys, because we all have problems, especially, you know, with gear and watches. One of the cool things here, that if you haven't been a big, you know, kind of follower of Haveston, what they did is they changed the lengths on these to where they're a little bit shorter, so there's less overhang, and then you also, I should say, less extra in terms of folding it back. And then with this sliding keeper, you can secure it so it's not sticking out, flopping out, looking unkept. It looks very purposeful, very clean, and I really enjoy that. And I think functionality wise it looks great, while still kind of retaining every piece of that military aesthetic that you'd want to. So I think this looks really great. But with that said, let's actually get this back off the wrist, get in some Lume shots, the light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Hey, as you can see, it's a Seiko. It has Lume Bright, although the pips are minimal. So in terms of surface area, there's not a lot of lume. It's applied really, really well. But one thing I like to do is work in some low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself maybe coming in and out of a building, walking underneath an overhang, or just spending time in your favorite automobile. So it is really nice to kind of get an idea before purchase to see what this is going to render like in less than optimal lighting. You get an idea in terms of the way the colors render, check that out, and the way also that the finishes and the textures render. So you really get to see that nicely subdued and classy little faint sunray dial. You can even see on the texture of this nicely done, just kind of perfect balance in terms of soft but still tightly knit nylon strap here from Haveston. So really beautiful, guys. Man, I am just loving that extra pop that you get when you do get some light on there, some light play on it, but you can still see very, very legible, which does fit with that theme in terms of a pilot's watch, right? Like you want it to be very legible. Of course, the minutes are going to be very important, maybe even more so than the hours. So very nice standout quality from that perspective. And then even if I get into some harsh lighting here, you can see that there's nothing to be exposed, nothing gross under the dial, you know, no mistakes or errors within that beautiful brushed finish there, with a nice transition to high polished all over this watch. So this is, man, look at this thing, man. It's just like less than optimal lighting. You get this mixed lighting condition and it brings it to life. It's quite a looker. And even when you get back into full lighting, it might seem a little bit flatter, right? Like maybe a little bit less dynamic, but I like that about it. I like that in most lighting conditions, you know, it's going to change. It's going to have a little bit of play, because it's, for not a lot of money, you're getting some nice historical value. You're getting a Seiko, right, from that perspective as a manufacturer, and then you're getting something that pays tribute to a Flieger dial, the B-style dial at that, and then you're also getting, of course, the military background behind the invasion strap, which ties to the U.S. military. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun for me. So in terms of getting into some of the closing thoughts here, we covered how it wears on the wrist, which is, you know, fantastic, and just how you would want it to wear. A lot due in part to the genius of the Haveston strap, and it being, you know, a single pass, but a little bit thicker, but still quite soft and supple and pliable, which is very, very nice. You kind of can get into points where nylon straps today can be a little bit overly stiff because they're just so tightly woven and so strong and so kind of erring on that seatbelt style a little bit too much. I love that this is still soft and feels good on the wrist. So in terms of model variants, for the mesh specific release, like I said, there's also the black PVD variant, which you can see a review on the channel, so definitely check that out. And then there's, of course, the more mainstream options that were really big on kind of these bold orange kind of accent pops of color, which I wasn't super crazy about, but, you know, and from a modern functional standpoint, those ones definitely have a little bit more of that kind of desirable, kind of more street, urban infused aesthetic. This for me looks more along the lines of that kind of classical theme that I really, really enjoy, that I think paired really well, you know, with kind of the Haveston brand as well. So a nice kind of pairing between Seiko 5 and Haveston. And then from there, guys, comparable models, still really competitive with many other entry-level pilot watches, but I think the nice thing is you're getting, again, that in-house engineering and legacy, which do make up for things like a lack of sapphire or kind of the lower beat count at the 4 hertz. You know, most, you can find cheaper watches that are going to have a higher, smoother beat count at 4 hertz. This is going to be 3 hertz. So basically, instead of 8 ticks per second, it's going to be 6 ticks per second, which is pretty standard for Seiko watches in general, so won't be bothered by that. And also longer service intervals because it's at a lower frequency, less wear and tear. So that is something. And really, guys, for me, the bottom line, this combo just highlights for me that perfect aviation theme. Like, this is something where I feel like, hey, if they bring back the Miramar Air Show or something like that, like, this was what would be on my wrist. If they put out another Top Gun movie, I will absolutely be wearing this combination. And maybe if I just go visit base again for somebody's retirement ceremony, this would be a fun one just to kind of wear and get a little bit nostalgic. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.